And as promised, here are three gentlemen that will be attending DLC Richmond. We have Dave AttackForTwo Solberg, a man that I give credit to a lot of my growth as a player, one of the leading figures in SLTC. I'm a big fan of this man. Welcome, Dave. We had you on the channel not too long ago, last season doing some casting with Bummy Jr., but it's first time getting you on for a chat for a podcast. It's a long time coming. Very glad to have you. We are also joined by Diego Saz, a level 9001, multi-time Golden Mickey winner. Very glad to have you here, Diego, for the first time ever on the channel. That just goes to show there are still so many big names in Lorcana that I'm still trying to make my way through getting onto the channel. So I'm very glad to finally get you, Diego. And of course, one of my original red-purple heroes, as it were, one of the original entrepreneurs, and someone that's kind of been, I don't know, Kendall, I feel like I haven't seen you doing content. I haven't seen you in public spaces for a while, so maybe quite a rare occurrence for our player from World Class Cards. We have Kendall Burdette. Gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you. We're going to be discussing DLC Richmond. At current time of recording, it is Sunday night, 2 o'clock in the morning for me, actually, Monday morning technically, but by the time you guys see this, it's probably going to be Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, so only a couple of days away from DLC Richmond. I basically want to jump straight into it with the first deck that we're going to be looking at today, which is Amber Emerald Dogs, and it will probably come as no surprise to ask Diego, I'm going to kind of ask you to take the lead on this deck, which is one that I know you know very, very well. This list that I'm showing at the moment was a first place list from Lore League. Now, Dogs has been coming up a lot in Top Cut lists over the meta, but this is one of the times it actually won out completely, beating DKP on Blurple in the finals, although Blurple is the matchup that Dogs wants to see, right? But that's this particular list. The only observation I want to make before I kind of hand over to you, Diego, is the 2 copies of Horseman Strikes, I would say, is not common in Amber Emerald. You might see it a little. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on that specifically, but I personally wouldn't have considered it stock. But everything else, pretty much what you'd expect to see, bar maybe some people wanting to include things like Under the Sea. But Diego, to start off, for the sake of players that may be kind of newer to Lorcana, can you give just the breakdown of like what is alluring about Dogs? What is it that brought you to concentrate so heavily on Dogs? I know that you've got a Matified all about Dogs that we will absolutely plug later, but I'd love to get as much out of you as we can right now. What is appealing about the Dog deck? Why is it performing well?
Yeah, so now I'm like considered the official Dogs guy. So
yeah, I would say so.
I've done a lot of coaching for it too, and there's people that come to me wanting to play the deck because first of all they're looking at a top competitive deck, and then they look at the cost of it. So this deck isn't that expensive when you look at it. I think it's maybe $100, maybe less overall. So the cost is appealing, and then it performing really well within set 9. It's already performing really well in set 10. So it's one of the top decks a lot of people consider it to be. And at first look, you think it's like an aggro deck. So a lot of newer players might just be, okay, this is a simple deck to play. Has aggressive play lines, but there's a lot more to it too. So then when you're playing at like a high level, there's a lot of different play lines you can take, and it has a lot of different tools in the deck that more aggro decks just don't normally have. And there's a lot of comeback mechanics, and just being able to kind of play a ton of things in a single turn that can appeal to a lot of people. But yeah, this list that we're looking at, what really sticks out to me that there's no Under the Sea in the list. Mm-hmm. So Under the Sea is pretty stock overall, and that is probably might have just been a meta choice. Now that like Dogs is on the rise, it's really, I find that you actually need Under the Sea for those mirror matches, mm-hmm. or just any other aggro matches. So Under the Sea can be really important. But this person decided to like, okay, let's lean heavy into Chromacon. So then they're going to play towards the Chromacon route, and things like the Horseman Strikes can be really good in this list because you're looking to target those purple decks. And a lot of the purple decks have evasive cards. And sometimes those purple decks can kind of ignore your Chromacon and go under you. And Horseman Strikes is a card that you can just, hey, I'm going to stop you from trying to just outrace me. Let's take out your genie for free. And let's just quest as hard as I can. What else sticks out to me here is there's only 5 of the Ursula like Mowgli effects, which is pretty low in my opinion. If you're looking to be facing something like green blue, you really want to have a couple more at least. Like 6 is probably the minimum I would put it at, and maybe have a higher split between Ursula and Mowgli, because Mowgli can just be like so versatile. It hits a lot of non-character cards that you're usually discarding something. And what other thing sticks out to me is the 3-cost lady. They really maximized on that, which I find interesting because usually you want to have 3-cost lady with Under the Sea, and when you're playing like the mirror match, you can set up this like 8-singer turn before you even have Under the Sea in hand, and then you play 7-cost tramp, dig in your deck, find that Under the Sea, and then sing it right away. But this list kind of just goes, okay, I'm going to be super aggressive, I'm going to outrace you, play Chromacon, protect my board, and win that way.
What's your opinion on Chromacon overall? Not necessarily just in the context of this list, but just for dogs overall. Are you a Chromacon fan?
Oh yeah, heavy Chromacon fan, and I think like people are starting to respect it more and more. That you're starting to see more items.
Saw some benches in lists from set championships already on social media.
yeah, definitely. Like dogs had it too good. Like the Chroma Dogs version that I was running for set 9 and half of set 10, where people are just like, okay, we're not even gonna run item removal. If I run into dogs, maybe I lose, but now people are starting to respect it more. There's actually more items in the meta, so they're probably throwing in item hate just for that too. So yeah, Chromacon's really good, and it's hard to play around. Like even if it's on the board, you can try to outrace it, but dogs can just go so quick that you can't always outrace them.
Another version of the Amber Emerald Dogs deck that I've seen pop up occasionally is this version leaning a little more into songs. Circle of Life, most namely, and playing singers like Shanti and the Rapunzel, who have Singer 5. What's your opinion on those versions of the decks? Is there anything to them, or is it kind of a maybe funner, but not necessarily as consistent or powerful way to maximize dogs' potential?
Yeah, I would say it's not as consistent. The high rolls are high, but like the low rolls are a lot lower. So you can really do some powerful stuff, like if you're discarding away Prince Philip.
Yeah.
9 costs, and then just wipe their board by bringing it back with Circle of Life. You can really do some blowout turns like that, but it's not as consistent as regular dogs. But it's definitely a fun deck.
Me and Diego played 2 CCS ago, in like the side event, I think. So I've played against quite a bit of dogs, and actually for DLC Bologna, dogs was a consideration for me. Like I practice it quite a bit, and then ultimately I didn't pull a trigger on it. I just always get cold feet. I think the deck is like incredibly powerful, but I think you do really need a lot of reps on it. Obviously, I don't think everybody going to Richmond is going to have that amount of reps. The deck always looks like it's like huge blowouts, but it can look like it's easy to play, but I think like it's almost like a house of cards. Like you make one wrong move or something, and then the whole thing, like you can lose everything. And then Emerald Chromacon is like one of the hardest cards to play against, but it's also a hard card to play as well. Like even people that pilot it, they might misuse the Chromacon because you can bounce your own stuff a lot of times. So then there's that decision tree on, are you bouncing their thing or should you rebounce your thing? I think that I agree. I mean, I can't disagree with Diego. He has like an insane insane rapport with the deck. I do think like for the most part, I would feel more comfortable on the 6 discard effects between like Mowgli and Ursula, and like a higher split of Mowgli, because it's important to just you know, a lot of times like not even hitting a song, so Mowgli can hit any of those. And then I do think like there has been a lot of talk like this past week, maybe even 2 weeks, just perceived increase on dogs. And so I think you do really want to play some Under the Seas to have for the mirror. So that, I mean, I know this list like was probably like a couple weeks old or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. This is definitely earlier on in the format, but it's of the larger events. It's the only dogs deck that actually won, so that's part of the reason I kind of wanted to show it and kind of get any thoughts of like, is there a reason that this list has done better than the others, or do we think it was just, as Diego kind of alluded to, you're doing it less expectant of the mirror and the aggro decks, and you're just saying, I'm just gonna ultra fast beat the more the control-y decks like Blurple and stuff like that? Or do we think there's something here that makes it stand out? Like you mentioned the lack of Under the Sea, which again surprises me, and especially if we're expecting a lot of dogs in Richmond, then you're going to want it. The Horseman Strikes, like obviously that has some value. Do we think that's adding a lot to dogs?
I think definitely if I was playing this at Richmond, I would want to include Under the Seas. And then as far as Horseman Strikes go, I guess maybe purple decks can give you trouble sometimes, but I feel like with Chromacon, I'd feel like you generally should feel comfortable into purple. And so, like I would I would probably use those slots for Under the Seas. I'm not too fond of like Scrooge. I played some green purple burn and played against it, and that Scrooge was in there a lot. So I know that's like an uninkable slot that you could definitely give up for Under the Sea. Everything else, like I think, is pretty stock. Yeah, because even the lullabies are good for banishing the
illusions. Yeah,
illusions. But then also, if you are playing Under the Sea, this helps you combo you're Under the Sea sometimes. And then I think definitely Dogs has historically always just had a hard time against Calhoun, and so this lets you like freely quest into Calhoun's, or again even combo it and get rid of a Calhoun with Under the Sea as well. I think that everyone, Dogs and Green Blue, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to that later, but those are probably like the biggest talks this past week in the social media space. And so I definitely would be prepared or try to feel comfortable, have a game plan against Dogs.
No, I think Dogs is up there as it's probably up there with like Purple Steel, like an echelon above probably the other decks. It's got like a pretty flat matchup spread. It's got a ton of game of into anything. It's like really bad matchup is red purple, but the rest of them are all quite quite reasonable. The deck has a lot of appeal to it because it can collect some free wins. Like sometimes you just triple Daisy on the play and run your opponent over. But also it's got a ton of decision making. Every inking decision matters. Every mulligan decision matters, whether or not you're going to go to a tramp line or whether or not you're just going to try and run your opponent over with your 1-drops and then shift Lady to get them back and then play a Chromacon. It's very complex. So I think it's a gamer's deck. Like if you want every match to be a grinder and you want your decisions to matter, this is a great choice. I personally get a lot of anxiety playing it because one wrong move and you just lose. I played Dogs at a set championships yesterday, and I cost myself a chance of winning just because for one turn I blanked on a Lilo that was in my discard and forgot to bring it back, and that one decision cost me a match. Easily the most complicated of all of the decks to get to mastery level. Like I don't think Kendall or I could start today, Sunday night, and get to anywhere close to Diego's level by Friday. And that's the challenge with Dogs, is that if you don't have the experience with Dogs today, it's probably not a great choice for you on Saturday.
I think people will still show up with it, and I don't want to sound like confident, but like I don't know if when I walk into the convention center, maybe I'm worried about like 5 of the Dogs players in the whole room. So you still have to respect it, but I do think some people will pick it up because, again, like Triple Daisy on the play, those are the easy games. Like you're always gonna win those, but you're gonna like lose matches a lot of times just one wrong move, like Dave said. So
during that analysis there you did, Dave, you brought up like one of the perceived favorable matchups, and that's how I want to kind of segue on to our next deck, which is going to be red purple. I have talked a lot about Red Purple on the channel, as will be no surprise to any of you. The audience have heard my thoughts. I want to get you guys' thoughts. But as a transition point, I'd like to finish off Dogs by saying, and I'll turn to Diego, as we all kind of acknowledge as the resident kennel master. Is Red Purple a good matchup into Dogs? Is that correct? If or not? And if so or not, why? I before you answer that, I saw Dragon John's well-known community member make a tweet the other day about, people say the Red-Purple matchup is hard for Dogs, but I win anyway because Chromacon's your friend. And I replied saying, are your Red-Purple opponents challenging? Because if so, I think we've identified the problem. But that's just my perspective. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Diego. Is Red-Purple, in your opinion, like a bad matchup if you're Dogs? Would you fear that?
Yeah, Red-Purple, like, overall is a bad matchup, but the die roll is your biggest friend. So whoever goes first can really, it looks like a blowout from either side. So like if Dogs just drops a Chromacon on Red-Purple and Red-Purple wasn't able to open a super aggressive playline like Tink into Diablo, into another Diablo and another Tink, and then if Dogs is able to find that Chromacon and they didn't do that playline, and then it pretty much a blowout from the Dog side. And it's just basically how just the game goes. Like play draw matters so much. If you're racing first, the other person has to answer you. And just how some of the cards land. So like Headless Horseman comes down on turn 5. Tramp comes down on turn 4. When you're going first, that Tramp doesn't get banished right away, but on the draw it would. So yeah, it's just big things like that can really change the game.
Perfect transition point into a Ruby Amethyst deck. Kendall, I'm going to ask you to lead us on this. Again, one of the original Red-Purple mentors. After Kendall, I'll certainly be interested to hear your thoughts, Dave, as well. I know you're very experienced with the deck. The audience have heard my perspective. This list isn't my list per se, but it's what I consider to be a fairly stock list. There's a conversation to be had about the Crusoyola version of the list with Sharks and Next Top Olympus, etc. But with this as a kind of skeleton, Kendall, what are your thoughts on Ruby Amethyst this set? Have you played it much? Is it something that you have considered at any point as a contender for yourself for Richmond?
I was excited once like Ruby Amethyst started like putting up results, or it was looking to be decent at the beginning of the set, and so I definitely tried it out. I believe I played it at locals quite a bit, and I played it online, and I was considering playing it in the last Charlie's 25K. Ultimately, I didn't play it. I do think that your Dogs matchup is good, and from like matchups in the past, like it definitely was like a fresh of breath air, I would say, because historically, like Red-Purple has been too slow, or it's always struggled into something like the matchup like Dogs, but the Headless Horseman was definitely a good addition, and then as well as the 2-cost Diablo. So I've always played decks that were just bad into Emerald Chromacon, and so it was kind of cool to just be like, oh, I can just ignore this card and keep questing out, because this deck is honestly, it's like really fast. It's a little disappointing because this obviously isn't like the Red-Purple deck that we used to play. But yeah, and then I think increased popularity in green blue was one reason why I didn't play it, because even though like something like Dogs was like good, you really have no way to just deal with like the Prince Philip shift line. Like you just kind of have to like present a bunch of threats, quest out really fast, and then hopefully they don't have answers to your follow-up once you get board wiped. And then I think also a little change in the meta might have been people started respecting Horsemen a lot more, or being able to play. People were finding ways to play around it. Not everyone was always just dropping Genie on 4 anymore. They were looking like, for instance, this list has Demonas, or the people were playing Thiagos. So they were really playing around Horsemen to like prevent you from getting like the most value out of that. But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, the deck's pretty. I don't know. It's like an aggro deck now. So I will say I'm not necessarily considering it for Richmond, but if I knew I was going to play against dogs 9 rounds, which I don't think I would, then I would definitely want to play this.
To the play style thing, Chris Anderson made a comment, a tweet some time ago that was like, if pre-rotation you are a green-purple player, you'll love red-purple now, and if pre-rotation you are a red-purple player, you should play green-purple now because it's the one that's got the, they kind of flipped in their positioning in the metagame, because this is just it's a linear aggressive deck that has some play to it. It's got some disruption for your opponent. Elsa's good, Hades is good, Demona's good. But there's a lot of questing power now with Sisu, Tinkerbell, Diablo. The one cost Tinkerbell is like really scrappy, particularly against dogs. Like they really don't want to see you lean on it. I'll echo what Kendall said, where like the biggest issue is that this is just very bad into green blue, and from my perspective, green blue is one of like the 4 big decks with Blurple, Purple, Steel, and dogs that I would expect a majority of your rounds to be, at DLC. And with that, like this is kind of a struggle. On the play, you have enough questing power, I think, to get there most of the time on the play, especially if your opponent just like stumbles on any important part of their draw. But if they, if they stale on 2, Cindy, shift Clarabelle, sing You're Welcome, you just don't have a shot. And that's really what's holding red purple back. That and the cost of Dumbos, if you don't have them, that'll keep you down. But it's a fun deck. I mean, it's good. And what it is really good against is like the messy aggressive decks. Like Amber Steel still kind of hangs around, and like Tiana certainly does not want to see Headless Horseman and the one cost Tinkerbell and Diablo and Lumiere in the metagame. So like if you run into like kind of the off meta stuff, the off meta aggressive decks that are kind of trying to cheese out the blue decks in the format, red purple's a good choice. And fairly play draw with Purple, Steel, and Blurple. So another good reason to pick it up, because I think those are going to be the majority of the metagame. So you have 2 reasonable matchups, 1 really good matchup, and 1 really bad one out of the big 4. And so it's one of those decks where like if you knew what your 12 rounds were going to be against, you would know whether or not red purple would be a good choice.
I'd like to get your opinions on, just to finish off the red purple talk, on some of the kind of flex spots. Because red purple, I think, has assembled a very purple steel like identity, certainly in its play pattern, but also in like the way you can build it. I think a lot of purple steel players have taken inspiration after Frank Carston's DLC win and leaning more into, okay, well, we don't actually have to have 4s of everything. Like, it's just more important that we curve, so you can play these kind of 2 and 3 obs as like, and I think that kind of works for red purple. So I think there is room for some expression here. This list is I've got 3 They Never Come Back. I was playing Hypnotic Strength for set championship. That's one that I would like to get your opinion on. Never Come Back versus Hypnotic Strength. Maybe you want both. The thing that is nice about Hypnotic Strength is specifically Ursula Whisper of Vanessa, who is another card who I really like in red purple. Isn't in this list, but it's something that you could absolutely consider, which is kind of a problem for red purple to deal with. The same reason why Iago is a problem. That's why we run Illusion Hate. Ursula is also a problem, but we can't banish her with just an action, right? So we need ways to answer that, and our only really clean way of doing that is the Iago plus Lumiere. Hypnotic Strength can be another way that you can hit that math. Hypnotic Strength also specifically, you talk about how hard Philip is to answer, and yeah, to be honest, I kind of just consider that an auto loss, but it is an out for Iago plus Hypnotic Strength if you can make that stick. Like, don't get me wrong, that's asking a lot, because they Philip combo, you play the Iago, they probably just go Hades, but at least it's a small avenue to getting you back in the game. So I'd love your thoughts on Hypnotic versus They Never Come Back, and maybe should that be a split. And I'd also get like your opinion on Hercules and Demona. I have insisted that I think you need a count of one or the other of these cards to make the purple steel match actually like a good matchup because you need your 4-drop to survive. Hercules obviously is uninkable and not great in a lot of other matchups, so I completely understand wanting to cut that. But I would not, if I was not going to play Hercules, I would always play Demona. What are your thoughts on that? All three of you, do you like the counts, or do you think it's not even needed? You could just stick with Iago's, Genies, and Dumbos. We'll start with you, Diego, just to go full circle.
Yeah, I don't have too much experience on this deck, but the Hypnotic Strength sounds like it's better for on the draw. It's a way to fight back a little bit more, opposed to you never came back, being you freeze their cards and you kind of just want to outrace them. So yeah, like if you have more of a toolbox there, that sounds good. And the Hercules, I always really liked when I did test this deck out, just against all the steel decks. It kind of can just sit there. It's almost like a item that is just waiting to pounce, like to do something. Like, and it works really well with Elsa, and getting good trades that way. So yeah, I really like Hercules in the deck, and yeah, Demona, the 4 cost is just a tank. So yeah, I like those cards.
Yeah, so when I did play the deck for a little bit, I never played Hercules. I didn't really feel like it's needed again, because like I felt like I was okay enough into purple steel, and like my main problems with the deck were my matchup into green blue, and so something like Hercules didn't really help me in that. Like I was trying to play stuff like libraries.
Sure.
That was okay. But I can see like maybe one of Hercules is fine as long as your uninkables are fine. Like this will just give you some game in a purple steel. Purple steel will probably be the most played deck for Richmond. Demona's, again, that's not a card I really played. It is a very big body. And you know, if you're playing around something like Headless Horseman's, or if you don't feel safe, you know, jamming your Iago out there, like it is just another 4-drop that you could have that doesn't really die to removal. It might get one challenge in, and then it could possibly just be, you know, froze down or stoned by Dade for like the rest of the game, especially like when you're playing Hades in this version. If you play Demona, challenge something, play Hades, they're just going to let you draw your 2 cards. The Demona is probably never untapping, but it will just sit there with damage on it maybe, and then you get some like Cheshire Cat activations. And then I did like They Never Come Back in the deck quite a bit. So I would probably consider a split with Hypnotic and They Never Come Back. They Never Come Back was good in racing situations because, again, like you're more of an aggro deck, and being able to freeze down 2 of their characters so you can continue questing, keep your guys alive, and then also help you catch up was really good. Like even something against like you know, like Blue Steel, like freezing down their Tinkerbell plus their Vincenzo or something like that. Like this helps you catch up. This protects your guys. Tinkerbell is not going to be able to swing back on your guys. So yeah, I think like maybe some split, and that would also just be for like ink or curve purposes, because you know one is obviously 2 costs, the other's 3. And yeah, and then I think Hades is a little bit of a flex too. I am also a fan of Vanessa in the deck. I would probably rather play that. I was trying to just be more aggressive into green blue, and Hades was something that doesn't really matter against green blue. They'll just kind of laugh at you and let you draw 2 cards, and they get to draw 2 cards later as well. So I was playing Vanessa as like some extra 5 cost, and not really Hades.
And it's
other than that, like,
yeah, it's interesting you bring that up actually. Just to keep this discussion point going a bit longer, because I've kind of felt the same, that like I've in red purple anyway, I've not been a huge fan of Hades, and mostly just because, again, we're a Demona deck, right? It just feels to contradict with the play style. But Dave, to finish off with your thoughts on red purple, I know you are still a big fan of Hades in the deck, or maybe that's changed in the last week with playtesting. You tell me. So yeah, we've heard enough about Hercules and They Never Come Back. Your thoughts on Hades to kind of finish us off on this.
Yeah, can I say one quick thing about Hercules?
Sure.
It is significantly worse in a DLC environment where your opponent gets takebacks.
True.
That could be true.
You're like,
True.
I take no damage, and you're like, Judge, I would like to take this back. So in a DLC environment, I would not put a Hercules in my deck.
Fair.
So with that one spot that I would get back, I'm a huge fan of 4 total Iago disruptive cards. So you currently have 3 with the You Never Come Back Another one that I would consider in that spot is Next Stop Olympus, just because it can randomly sneak out a lure, particularly with Dumbo. So like if you you can Next Stop Olympus your Dumbo, ready it, and then draw another card, gain another lure. As a way to like sneak one out, and it also just banishes Thiago sometimes for free. If you have like Lumiere in play and you curve into your own Iago, you can just pop theirs. With regard to Hades, I agree with everything that's said. It's certainly at its worst against green blue. So if you were trying to improve that matchup, you could cut those 3 Hades and put libraries in its place. So one of the ways that you can kind of secure that matchup to your benefit, particularly when you're on the play, is that leading into their fill-up turn, you just drop the library and put 2 or 3 characters into the library, and then when they Prince fill-up combo, you draw 3 cards. And since the curve is kind of low to the ground, hopefully you can deploy them right back onto the field, right? So they keep their fill up, but you send the turn back to them with the library and 3 characters. So if I were playing red purple, that would be the swap side made kind of to this list. And I was a huge Hades defender. I just don't know that the format is correct for it right now. And the other thing I'll say about You Never Come Back is that it's really good against purple steel, because if your opponent is on the play, and they go Palace Guard into Calhoun into Cobra, you just banish the 2 characters, and they're like so far behind.
And some of the purple steel decks are playing Iagos themselves now, so you can really blow them out. I red purple already has seen very popular this weekend alone. I think it's going to be maybe top 4 is pushing it. 5 seems safer, but I'm going to say it. Top 4 is going to be the 4th most represented deck in the room at DLC Richmond. You heard it here first. Another deck, and I'm going to look to you, Dave, to lead us on this one, which you may not thank me for, but let's talk a little bit about Blue Steel. This list that I'm showing now is the first place list from CCQ Wakefield. So again, earlier on in the format, it is also 62 cards, which I have feelings about. But it is the best. I'm sure we all have feelings about. But it is the best performing Blue Steel deck list from a large event this meta that I have in my archives. So it's the one I'm gonna show. Again, we can talk about changes and things like that, but generally speaking, Dave, I know you played Sapphire Steel last format at DLC Milwaukee. Have you had much of a chance to tinker about with it this set? What are your thoughts on it? Is there a reason we saw it win one event and then kind of not do a lot since?
It's certainly a very fun deck to play.
Oh, yeah.
It's very powerful. The 1-drop into Sail, Cindy, Goliath. Cindy sings Thunderbolt, and you end that turn empty-handed. You draw 2. It's just like the freest on the play win that you could hope for. It's got a lot of powerful stuff going on. At least in the 62 card version, they snuck a 9th ramp card in there, and they are playing Develop Your Brain, so I think that's good deck building. The challenge that I think Blue Steel has is that it's just a little bit clunky. As with all blue decks, right? Like the moment you have to get off curve because you either miss ramp or you miss your 4-drop, like the deck kind of struggles. Interesting that this person is not playing Strength of a Raging Fire. It's not at its best in Blue Steel because you don't have a ton of characters. But what it did do, at least in the set 9 version of Blue Steel that we played, is that once you turn the corner and you've like kind of stabilized in the game, Strength of a Raging Fire is like what slams that door shut. Now this deck does have Headless Horseman, and I was watching the finals against Blue Green, where this Headless Horseman took out I believe it was a Prince Philip or a Clarabelle. It was one of those big green cards.
So it's true. It is Maleficent. It is the same card.
Yeah. A few months ago when I saw this Headless Horseman get tweeted, I posted a picture of it next to Maleficent Dragon and said these are the same card. It's also with Beyond the Horizon and Headless Horseman, you do have a fair amount of disruption for the green decks that are relying on the Philip combo. Now, with the Horseman, you have no control over it, right? It's just random. But you only have to hit one of the 2 pieces to completely disassemble the whole thing. And so in that regard, really powerful. Spooky Sight is an interesting card. against dogs, it's like can be a blessing and a curse, because if they're going for lady game plans, you just like completely fuel them for the rest of the game. Whereas otherwise they, would have ink trouble to keep deploying their threats over and over again. And against Purple Steel, ramping them is very bad. But it's a good deck. It's fun. It's probably, I would say for Richmond, going to be, the Blue Steel diehards are the ones that are going to be playing it. I don't think it'll have a huge amount of share of the people outside of, the Blue Steel community that absolutely adore this deck. But it's good. And I think with the Pluto, is it the 5-drop Pluto?
Yeah.
Fair amount of games into dogs, because dogs really wants to go a Chromacon angle and quest very aggressively. So this person showed up very prepared for the dogs matchup, including a Pluto and the spooky sites, which I imagine was the reason that they put them there. And Namari, the card next to it's one of my favorite cards. That was the reason I chose to play Blue Steel at the last format. Even better now with Cinderella, because she's the princess you can follow up with and really smooth out your hand. And it's good. It's fun. Big fan of the one of Arthur. We played that in Milwaukee too. Especially with Tinkerbell, you can clear out a whole bunch of stuff. And then with the Ink Runner as well, Tinkerbell can even jump up and whack genies out of the sky. And it's a good fun deck.
But no Scar Finally King. Bad list. Diego.
No docs either.
No docs either.
Interesting.
Yeah? Why?
No Mufasa.
No Mufasa.
No.
When Kendall builds Blue Steel, he starts with Mufasa. We go from that, then ramp. Diego, Kendall, whoever wants to jump in, and like any additional thoughts to add about Blue Steel and its place in the metagame?
Yeah, I guess I always think in terms of dogs, so dogs can really get under this. Like, there's only one cost card in here, or 4 copies of it, so hitting that, making sure you hit ramp, making sure you hit Cinderella for 4 can be a hard ask sometimes, and like dogs can just really just outrace them. So it is a little risky against the aggro decks, and then dogs also has Mowgli to snipe the spooky site if you're really relying on that. There's Pluto that can give it trouble if you try to go later in the game, but you just got to get there too. So it's a risky one to bring if dogs is up on the rise. I think a lot of people are kind of leaning towards more of an ally version of Blue Steel as well, and that has a little bit more fighting game in the early game than just kind of this is almost like skip turn 1, play turn 2, try to hit your turn 3 ramp again, and then start playing your bombs, which can be inconsistent sometimes if you're doing that across like 12 rounds.
Is the same to be said of any Sapphire deck? Obviously, we'll get to Blurple and Green-Blue, but are they all just going to inevitably share that core risk and weakness?
Yeah, overall, I don't know if, like, when I play Sapphire decks, I ship 7 sometimes, and I still miss turn 2 ramp, and then that game's just a loss. But best of 3 does help that, where you can kind of just mitigate that risk a little.
It is amazing how much that, like, again, I'm not breaking any new ground, but I played Harlan Sweet in the finals of the Content Creator Set Championship, and he was on Blue Steel. I was on Red Purple. And he was higher seed, so he was on the play. So I was pretty sure I knew how this was going to go. And you can imagine the relief when he missed turn 2 ramp of like, maybe I do win. This green-purple list, which I have dubbed the Spessy Special. I think he's earned it, to be honest. Definitely the one who's put this on the map. And I bring it up because it has placed a couple of times over the last few weeks. To my eye, it just looks like if I see blue decks all day, I'm goated. Maybe there's more to it, maybe not. Have you played around with this much? And maybe you can talk about the dogs versus... I'm sure you've run into it in the ladder at some point, Diego. I know you are a ladder fiend, so I'd be shocked if you'd not seen it at all. Your thoughts on the deck and it's relation to dogs?
Yeah, I think the deck is just it's very high risk. Maybe high reward if you see all the Sapphire decks, but like the variance on it is just It's so bad. If you run into dogs matchup is honestly like unwinnable. It is 100.
Really? Is it
Um,
really that polarizing?
yeah, it's very, very polarizing. That's the word I was looking for. So like if you want to gamble, if you're a gambling person and you're going to Richmond, you could bring this and just hope you hit all Sapphire decks. And I feel like there could be, day twos that make that bring this list and make day two, maybe even make top 32 if you just get super lucky on your matchups. Hope dogs fight each other off. Maybe dog players that aren't the strongest either aren't making it in the later rounds, so you dodge them in the early rounds, and you're facing all these other Sapphire decks in the later rounds. Um, yeah, this list is just appealing too to some people because it's kind of dubbed the $15 deck, and it's pretty cheap to bring, and also it's just a lot more straightforward to play than other aggro decks. You kind of just you play your low cost characters, quest, try to burn them once they get removed, and play a Amethyst Chromacon, draw some cards, play your Incaster, gain a lore each time, and you finally get there. So yeah, there's not too much decisions to involve with this deck, and you can just sneak some wins.
So it's interesting you use that as kind of frame of reference here for like newcomers to just kind of jam some wins, because I have an American friend that I've been playing D&D with for like 5 years, but we've never met in person, but Richmond is close enough to him that he's going to go, and he plays very casually Lorcana, but because he's coming to this event and there's another friend, like it's going to be a big meetup of us. He was like, oh, well, if I can get a ticket, I'll play the main event. And he got a ticket. So it was like, oh, cool, I'm going to play. I have like 5 days I can test. This was the first thing I recommended. And I was like, you'll learn it quickly, and you might just auto win a Mulan if you just if you just match up into the blue decks, you might just auto win. So yeah, there's just an example there of exactly what you just said. I think if for someone who doesn't have the time to jam but just wants that Mulan, or maybe does have the time to jam but just wants to take that risk of like, hey, I should win the blue matchup more often than not, I just want a Mulan, that's it. So I think a lot of people might pick it for that reason. Kendall, have you played with or against this deck? Thoughts?
Yeah, the first time I played against this deck was again at the last CCS. The person I played against, I think testing on CCS, I played against it once or twice online, and I was like, oh, that's like, I saw hit an Inkcaster, and I was like, what is this person really doing? Or I didn't really wasn't thinking that was going to be a thing for CCS, and I guess I've since learned that I guess Spessy was playing it in the LCCC. I didn't really watch his matches, so I guess that's where it had kind of came from. But I did play against somebody at CCS, and I was playing Blurple at CCS, and they just crushed me. It wasn't even close. I think this person he definitely made top 16. I can't remember if he made top 8, but he knocked me out of contention for top 16. And yeah, I was just like, wow, if you're playing Sapphire, it's super hard to beat this deck. And Thiago was staying with me that weekend, and after the tournament, that when we came back to my house, we literally loaded it up online and just started playing some games online with this. I played with it quite a bit online. I just wanted a fresher breath of air, and
Sure.
It was super fun to play, just to burn people. And again, none of the Sapphire matchups were even close, but then to that extent, again, I got paired into dogs, and like Diego said, it's 100-0. You'll never beat dogs in a million years. You would think Purple Steel would be tough, again with Calhouns and stuff, you have all these 1-drops, but I was still able to take quite a bit of matches against Purple Steel, but I don't think I would ever win a match against dogs, no matter how much you forced me to or whatever. But the deck was really fun to play, and yeah, it's super cheap, and if you're just looking for a good aggro alternative, this is pretty fun. Again, yeah, if you match into a bunch of Sapphire, which I think you have a much higher chance of matching into a bunch of Sapphire than you do dogs. You might play dogs once or twice, I would say. So I don't know. You could have a really good run with this. It wouldn't shock me. Again, yeah, 1 or 2 people made day 2 with this, and maybe one sneaks into top 32 or something, for sure.
Yeah, there will be some people in the room that get a very fortunate bracket, and I hope it's you three. Dave, any final thoughts on this list before we move on?
I am going to be sweating round 1. Almost assured like, for sure. I'll go further to Diego. I think there will be plenty of these that they make day 2. I don't know if they'll make it to top 32, but like in top 64 for sure. I just think the meta, like there are people, there's enough blue in the metagame that you can ride 9 blue decks, Blurple and blue steel and blue green all the way, to a top 32 or a top 64 finish.
Kendall, you mentioned that you were playing Blurple at that event where you were up against the Special, and that's a nice transition into Blurple. Bound to be a popular deck in the room. This list was second place at Law League, again earlier on in the format, but it does come to us from our world champion, DKP, so put some respect on the name. Your thoughts on the deck, how strong of a consideration has it been for you for your Richmond pick? Of course, not asking any of you to confirm what you're going to play, but I'm sure you've all considered a plethora of things. So yeah, how does this stack up, Kendall?
Yeah, Blurple. I feel like at least last set Blurple was as close as I could get to like playing some sort of old red purple deck. So it's still a solid deck, and it got a few new tools with the set. Like Demona, you wouldn't really take it for something in Blurple, but like a lot of times Blurple can have like these double ramp draws, or a lot of times what it needed is just, it doesn't matter the 3, like even if it was giving your opponent 3 cards, it just needed to stabilize by tapping down the whole board and like clearing their board, and sure, you got 3 cards, but whatever. So I think Hades, Demona, and Cheshire Cat were good additions to the deck. Everything else is like pretty much the same. I guess Woodchuck's Guidebook. This helps you like delay your Demona draws, like so that you have cards on board, but no cards in hand, so Demona gets to draw your cards. It is like, I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely like a strong consideration for me, more so than any of the other decks that we've reviewed so far, even though I would love to play red purple, but it's just not my style. Blurple leans more towards my style. Obviously this is an older list from Din, so things have probably changed since then. But no, I think everything's still really good. I think when I played it at CCS again, I was a little, I don't know, the Hades is just, it's so weird, especially again with the green blue thing. I was playing, I played some Vanessas when I played Blurple at CCS again. I don't know, I think that Vanessa, a lot of these purple matchups are always like evasive wars, and so Vanessa being able to like quest for 3 puts really fast clock on green blue, but then it also helps you win these evasive wars, whether that's against Blurple or purple steel or whatever, green purple sometimes. Yeah, everything, all the purple decks are just about evasives, so Vanessa was definitely a big consideration for me there. I'm a little sad to not be playing Second Star anymore, because that card was really fun to always cast, but Demona's a really cool card too, so I grew up on gargoyles, and so the fact that like Demona is really playable and it's in one of my most favorite colors to play, I think Demona is like a really cool card by design. Like one of my favorite cards right now, definitely. Like Rabbit was probably like my old favorite card, but now that that's rotated out and stuff, like Demona kind of like fills that role a lot, I think.
What they took from us, brother, what they took from us. But yeah, I agree. I'm a big Demona fan. Before we move over to the other chaps, I would ask your opinion specifically about Belle. Again, as you say, this is an older list. Belle, not someone we're really seeing a lot these days. She's still great, but Cat, just the being able to do it multiple times, and the sort of niche extra of tucking a card and then potentially returning that cat to your hand, or it ramping you or anything like that. Like, nice little benefits. What are your thoughts on Belle in Blurple?
I think that I still liked Belle in Blurple. I think Blurple is the one deck that gets away with some split between Cheshire Cat and Belle. It's hard to say what that exactly should be, but I do think the repeatable effect on Cheshire Cat is definitely relevant. It definitely makes combat really hard in all of these purple mirrors. But I do think Bell is still pretty relevant in Blurple, especially like I think early on in the set I was still playing like 1 star, and so having the 5-cost body to be able to help sing together, that still helped a lot. But I do think it has some slots, and the 3 damage that it can move is still really relevant. Like in the purple mirrors, like being able to move 3 damage to immediately take out Dumbo is really big. So hard to say exactly like what the split is, but I would definitely play both.
Dave, I know you're someone that plays a lot of Blurple. I know you're very like a control sort of player. What are your thoughts on Blurple at the moment? Not necessarily this list, but just your experience with it.
This deck's really good, and got some pretty big improvements in the set. So the first is the cat. I'll take a stronger stance and say if I was playing Bell, it would be the 5th cat. I would start with 4 cats. And the reason I would do that is because if you miss ramp, you can go 1-drop cat and stabilize. The other big addition that this deck got that I think is kind of underrated is the guidebook. It lets you cut 2nd star, so you don't get bricked up on these 10-cost uninkable songs. And if you miss ramp, you can guidebook on 2, and some percentage of the time you can pop the guidebook on 3, find a 2-cost ramp, whether it's Tipo or Sail, and then play a 5-drop on turn 4, and you're back off to the races if that it's Elsa or Iago. Or the other thing that you can do is like if you're on the draw in Blurple, if you use Hypnotic Strength to like blast your opponent's Iago that they played, you can sneak a guidebook in the same turn. Whereas like in set 9, if you had to answer the Iago because you were afraid of your opponent, playing Elsa and running away with the game, you had Hypnotic Strength on the Iago, but then you couldn't do anything else. You were kind of frozen because there wasn't anything else to do. And with the additional 2, now you can play the guidebook and just let it sit there until after you demona and fully reload. Demona's I think is great. So what I think green, blue, and Blurple have over blue steel is that they have these comeback kind of sweeper mechanisms to get back in the game when you've stumbled, whereas blue steel is really good at answering one thing per turn. The Philip combo and then just Demona and the cat really help you stabilize. This is a great deck. And I estimate it will be the 2nd most popular deck after purple steel.
It did definitely get stronger this set with Demona and especially the cat, where like historically the weakest matchup was dogs, and now that matchup is as bad for Blurple because of Cheshire Cat and Demona being able to exert cards. Yeah, it's definitely a strong contender, and even like the worst matchup historically another bad matchup would be green-blue, and green-blue isn't as bad if you're able to kind of play a Woodchuck's Guide, keep your hand size low, and try not to give them that Clarabelle value.
Makes a lot of sense. Let's go on then to green-blue. This has come up a few times, so you got to know this is a deck that people are taking seriously. Dave, I'll look to you to lead this one for us, mate. This green-blue list, again, from CCQ Wakefield, a little further back in the meta, but again, one of the highest placements from the larger events. Blue-green, like, certainly has kept popped up a lot, but very rarely making it past top 8s. But this was a 2nd place list from Wakefield. Seems fairly stocked to my eyes, but the only conversation point that we should have during this is consideration for the detective build with the Judy Hops, etc., etc. So, Dave, whether it be this list or the detective one, what are your thoughts on blue-green? Is it the most powerful deck in the game? Does it have the highest ceiling to do the most powerful things?
Yeah, so where I would start is have you ever tried open hand testing?
Yeah.
So like you and your opponent, your cards are all face up, right? And
Yeah,
you just always draw the card that you choose what from your deck. This will never lose an open-handed testing game, ever. The problem is that in reality, this is a very inconsistent. And I wouldn't say very inconsistent, right? But it's an inconsistent deck. And that's its downside. It's a turbo. The Cinderella versions are a turbo ramp strategy, right? This type of version is really centering around Clarabelle. You want to empty your hand fast, shift a Clarabelle into play. Use either Mother's Knows Best or You're Welcome to get rid of your opponent's most threatening card, draw a whole bunch, and then from there you will use the Prince Philip combination with Malicious Mean and Scary to clean up the board, and it's very powerful. I think what James here has going for him that I like personally is the shift, having the small Prince Philip available to shift in. It's really important against, like, say, Purple Steel. One of the easiest ways for green blue to beat Purple Steel is to play like a Tipo or Sail, and then on the following turn play Sail, Prince Philip, and then use the Philip combo on the following turn. It's really, it's quite powerful. I think as a plan B, the 4-cost Donald Duck is a better option than Kita, so I like what they're doing, there. And the rest of it is like kind of standard. They also have 2 Under the Sea, which it's quite powerful into dogs. Philip, shift Philip, even if you don't have Malicious Mean and Scary, shifting Philip, he can sing Under the Sea by himself. Clarabelle can shift in with just Tipo and sing Under the Sea. So there's a lot of pressure on dogs to have Ursula. The one Mowgli, this deck has a ton of action, so you're almost, you're pretty safe against Mowgli if you're specifically trying to protect Under the Sea or Malicious Mean and Scary for the Philip combo, because you can have one of your other 15 actions in your hand to discard to your opponent's Mowgli. I also think this person was wise to play John Silver. It's quite powerful, into dogs if they do strip your combo action. John Silver is like a really reasonable, kind of very difficult card for dogs to take care of. They really have to use the 2-cost tramp to boost something to run into it. So it puts a lot of pressure on dogs to just have the answer immediately, or the game kind of spirals out of control in a few turns. This deck's really good. The detective version loses a fair bit of like raw power for a much more consistent game engine. So like you get rid of, you basically trade Cinderella in this list for Judy Hopps, which cuts out 4 uninkables, and then you also get the Shift Basil package, so the 1-cost blue Basil and the 6-cost green Basil, which also helps you sing Under the Sea on turn 3, right? So you Basil, Tipo, Shift Basil, sing Under the Sea. I don't think dogs can recover from that. So if your opponent's on the detective package, you're really, as a dogs player, kind of priced into playing your Ursulas or Mowglis earlier in the game, rather than developing 2 or 3 characters. It's good. It's very, very not fun to play against when they have it though.
Agreed.
Easily the worst play experience for the opponent of all of the decks in Lorcana.
I think for me, that's just green decks in general. Quickly, Diego, anything to add on that specifically for the dogs matchup? Those points that Dave was just making there, would you add anything to that assessment?
Yeah, I agree with Dave. With dogs having Ursula and Mowgli to snipe a lot of their cards, green-blue can really just have very few resources that they're kind of just like hoping to top deck that answer Under the Sea. So like from the green-blue perspective, playing dogs, a lot of the time they're just praying. They're just like hoping, oh, I just need the answer. If I have it, I wipe your board and I win. And similar to just that list, it's just very like you have the potential to take out any deck, but you have to see the right cards. And if it is your day, this can take the whole DLC, right? It has the potential to just beat every single deck.
Kendall, anything to add on this deck? Again, this is another... I mean, hey, this is the closest we've got to a B-prep, man. Like, are you not all over this?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe. I just... I don't know. I haven't got around to playing this deck, but I hate this deck. Again, miserable play experience. If you're going to come to Richmond with green-blue, just don't come, please. Let's have fun playing our cards. I like playing Amethyst. I hate seeing Clarabelle on the other side of the table. Like, they're my cards in my hand. Like, I want them, like, they shouldn't be your cards too, kind of thing. I would definitely expect to play against a list more similar to this rather than detectives. I'm not gonna worry about testing too much into detectives. Only a handful, like I wouldn't even say a handful of players play that, right? I think it's just like Quigley, and like that's about it. But yeah, just the incredible high rolls where you Clarabelle, dump your hand, shift Clarabelle, sing your welcome, maybe even Mother Knows Best, another thing back into their hand, and then like the next turn you bend them. Incredibly oppressive.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be happy again for next rotation when Clarabelle leaves the format. But other than that, yeah. I can't remember who it was, but a little birdie told me something about maybe Spooky Sight in this deck over Under the Sea, and this would be a reason again, like if you're playing dogs, to maybe include more Mowgli's rather, so you're not getting your Under the Seas sniped by Ursula. We did talk about earlier the downside, I guess, maybe Spooky Sight, but that's maybe a consideration playing this deck. Yeah, I don't know. I hope to dodge them.
Yeah. Don't come if you've got this sleeved. It's basically the message of this podcast. Totally reasonable POV. Coming close to the end now, a deck that we've got 2 more to go through. A deck I feel like we couldn't miss in good conscience, because it does seem to be popping up over the last couple of weeks. We have the Amber Amethyst Whale OTQ 1-turn quest deck. That's how we'll be shipping it for DLCs. The thing is about this deck is I've also seen like some make top cut without the whale combo, because it turns out that purple cards are just good. That's the hot take of the podcast. Purple cards are just good. You get to play Lantern, so you get a similar play style to Blurple, where you play your genies on turn 3, etc., etc. And we get access to that Horseman Strikes, which obviously we talked about earlier in the context of a dogs list. I think you're far more likely to see it in this list. And yeah, Horseman Strikes, it is just a great answer to some of the most must-answer cards in the game. Like Genie, that's not something you want sitting there questing for 2 every game. Dumbos, that is not something you want making history and breaking records. And then even the things like the Phillips and Sharks that might pop up in some red-purple lists. So it's just such an easy answer. It's a cantrip. So Diego, I'd love your thoughts on the yellow-purple list. Are you a whale believer? And do you think there's something to be said for not even playing the whale and just this list potentially having a non-whale list having a good run? What are your thoughts on yellow-purple?
Yeah, I think we would end up seeing more of the non-whale OTK combo at Richmond. I think the whale OTK combo worked for Zan at this tournament because it was more of a surprise factor.
Sure.
People now are kind of more aware of it. If you see, they might hold back some removal for the whale if they know you're on this list. So they kind of know how to play around it more. So I think the other version is stronger, more of a stronger list. It kind of beats up on the other purple decks, because if you're in this evasive war and you have 4 Horseman Strikes, it can be really strong. You have this 4 additional removal cards when you're just battling evasive for evasive. And yeah, I think it's a really solid list. It does have bad matchups, which would be dogs, and that might just make some people shy away from the list, but it does have really good matchups into those other big top decks. So if you're on the train of, hey, let's just dodge a specific matchup, bring this list. It's pretty solid.
I do think the deck is real. I think if I was going to play yellow-purple, I would play the OTK version. Just because if I'm going to play like a normal purple deck, I'd rather my splash be steel or sapphire and not really yellow. So unless if I was like, if I was going to play yellow version, I would be trying to OTK people. Yeah, I think if you were going to play this deck, I would try to be comfortable with, again, like Diego said, dogs, because I don't really see how you can be too good into dogs with this deck. And then the other thing too, and I saw Zan winning with it, like green blue is supposed to be super popular, and I was like, I guess you'd need to be competent in the deck, or definitely get comfortable with you're not gonna like combo against green blue, because I don't think a monster is ever sticking. Beginning of the format, I played a lot with the red purple version, and I didn't really see the draw to play the yellow version, but because really at the time I was only considering Lantern, I didn't consider Horseman too much, but that definitely proved to be like a house in all these purple mirrors. So when everyone's just picking a purple deck and choosing their flavor of splash color, Horseman Strikes is definitely a big draw to that as well. But yeah, I would, when you're playing the deck, I would just be trying to make sure you're confident in like winning games without having to rely on the combo, because more often than not you're probably going to have to just win a fair game rather than comboing people, and then you just have the combo as like a backup option.
You mentioned you were playing the whale with red purple. Dave, I know you were doing the same thing. I know you were having some fun with that, but how does that translate over to yellow purple? Go ahead, give me your thoughts.
I have 500 matches with red purple whale and wrote a guide on it, and then Zan won with it and put it on the map, but I decided to like pick it up and throw all that hard work in the trash can. I was good. That was like, had Zan not won with the whale combo, that was 100% what I would have locked for the event. Your green blue matchup with the red purple version is very bad, but everything else is like fine. And particularly like purple, like the red cards are much better into dogs. And against like purple steel, you just need to survive because they can't banish the whale really. Like it costs them their whole board to exert it with like a Demona. And so I really liked the deck. The yellow purple version, the non-whale version, is like probably my current front runner for like deck I would choose to play in Richmond. I think it's got favorable matchups in the purple steel and Blurple, because you're just like the more efficient purple deck, and you have Horseman Strikes where your opponent doesn't. But I think Thiago is like underselling how bad the matchup is into dogs for yellow purple. Like it is nearly unwinnable if your opponent just doesn't make it. Like they have to. If it's predicated on them making a mistake that allows you to like steal a win, and you need that to happen twice in order like to win a match, right? Like you have to steal 2 games from a dog's opponent. I just think that's like a really tough sell. But if you're on the dodge plan, it's a great version. If you want to try and make a yellow purple work against dogs, like the best option that a lot of people have found is the 2-cost Gaston with boost that forces their characters to quest. It's too slow and under normal circumstances to stop tramp from happening, but if your opponent doesn't have tramp, it can delay it 1 turn, and then that could be all you need to get back into it. It's like fine but not great as like a tech choice. I think if I were registering yellow purple, I would just not pay any attention to dogs, just turn a blind eye to it, hope I don't play into it. And DLCs have been one with that.
Literally. We have seen that strategy play off in spades, so I think that's super reasonable to hope for a polarizing matchup spread. The final list that we're going to actually show today, from the rogue to the absolute front runner, and my prediction for most represented deck of DLC Richmond, we've got Purple Steel. Kendall, I'm going to ask you to talk us through this. I'm showing now a list from Jonathan Williams, player that's had a very good season so far in Whispers in the Well. Won a Golden Mickey, same as you, Diego, at DLC Milwaukee. Obviously, that was last season. But in this meta, Whispers in the Well, he topped PPG Orlando, and I think Charlie's was the other one where he came second. So certainly give him his due. This is his list. It looks fairly stock to me. Kendall, your thoughts on Purple Steel? Will it be the most popular deck in the room?
Yeah, I don't think it's any surprise. Like, Purple Steel is going to be the most played deck, and it's going to be, I don't know, 30%. It might even be more. Like we saw like last set with Blurple, how popular Blurple was. Blurple I think reached, was it like 32 or 34%? Like that was the most played deck ever in any DLC. Like I think this is probably going to be the same thing This is the most consistent deck. It's just good card soup. And yeah, it'll be, I don't know, it'll be again 30% or so, maybe even more. So there's definitely so many different ways to build it, especially with Frank winning, right? And you see in these lists now, they almost look like Hoffens all by themselves. They're all over the place, but they're just some of the best cards at every ink cost on curve. Yeah, I think that, for instance, like Lexington was a really good addition as a 3-drop because it's just a 4/4 that didn't have any downside like the Lawrence. Like Lawrence was the 4/4, right? But it got put damage on it and then whatever. Demona, again, really good addition. Hades, good addition. And then I think something that people weren't playing at first, which is starting to be more common now, is the Olafs. I think Olaf was maybe like a slight nudge or to the green blue matchup, because when they go to combo with Prince Philip, like it hits the Olaf and you get to bounce something before it goes off. But yeah, I don't know. Just again, we see it in all the purple shells. It's mostly all the same purple cards, and then this one you're splashing steel for removal. And then Calhoun again has always been good against all the aggressive decks. So something like dogs, like again, has always struggled with. Just the card Calhoun alone can just like solo dogs sometimes. So yeah, and then it's able to assume like any roles. It can play control pretty well, and then it can also be aggressive when it's up against like the bigger control decks like green blue or Blurple.
Yeah, Purple Steel and similar to Blurple just feel like there's the least to say about them, right? Because they're very much the same shell they were in set 9 format, bar a couple of improvements that you've pulled upon. Diego, your thoughts on Purple Steel? How do you feel as the Dogs player into Purple Steel? Again, I'm sure it's a matchup you are very experienced in. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for me personally, I don't find the matchup too bad. Like, I think it can lean towards more of a 50-50 or slightly favored for Dogs if Purple Steel isn't teching for it. But if Purple Steel is respecting it more, it can maybe lean towards their favor. And certain cards like that, like item removal, can be a play against Dogs to keep Chromacon off, and that's like kind of one of the main ways the Dog players can win the match. But that kind of just leans towards, hey, maybe the Dogs need to adapt and play towards something else. So yeah, this deck is pretty consistent. I think a lot of people it's somewhat easy to pilot. Like, you would just play your 1 cost, 2 cost, 3 cost, 4 cost, and sing strength, and that's kind of just the if you have that curve, you're doing pretty well. And I think the most thing you have to fear against is maybe the mirror, losing the die roll.
Dave, final thoughts and anything to add towards Purple Steel?
Purple Steel, in my experience, it's like the one deck that doesn't have some truly bad matchup. And so like that's a reason why I think a lot of people would gravitate to it, is like you're not going to lose any games in your round pairing. Now that said, I don't think it's the ceiling on its good matchups is as high, right? It's just a much flatter, much closer to all 60-40s rather than having some 75-25% matchups, or 25-75% matchups floating around. What I like that Jonathan Williams is doing here is I'll echo the Olaf thing over Diablo. In a lot of ways, Olaf is like a free win collector, because your opponent, like, your dock isn't sitting on the table, it's in your hand. You play it, you draw your 2 cards, you send the Olaf into something, you get your dock back, and like you run away with the game from there, because your opponent just exerted in front of the Olaf, and it also has the benefit of against green blue. The other thing that I really I'm interested about is the 3 cats. I would certainly play 4. But the other thing that I really like is that in this 2-cost spot, he's not playing the Heron. I just think a vanilla 3/3/1 for 2 is, you could do better in that slot. So he's you've got the Timothy Q mouse, which quests for 2 in certain instances, and then Smee, which defends against evasives. It challenges Dumbos. It also it also draws a card with Dumbo in some cases. So I really like what's going on there. The Lexington one is interesting for me because I'm actually very down on Lexington as a card. Okay. Like particularly because if like the bad matchup for this deck now, like the quote unquote bad matchup, right, is like it's still Blurple, right? Like I think you're unfavored slightly into Blurple, and one of the ways you can really lose a game is if you're forced into playing Lexington on turn 3 and then your opponent just elses it and it remains exerted just the rest of the game. And so you can mulligan it away and you can ink it, both are great, but if that's the only 3-cost card that you're priced into playing, it's just like a really big liability. And I think if stuff like Amber Steel aggro with that had daisies and Tianas were more prevalent, then the Lexington would be a little bit better. But like against dogs, because of Daisy, it also can, and Chromacon, it can just stop that Lexington. You kind of ice it. Like it challenges once. It's more like a single shot removal spell against dogs than it is like this consistent, consistent threat because of the options as the dog player says. But this is a great deck. To me, this just feels like going 6-2 in day 1, which is great. You make day 2.
My bread and butter, yeah.
You're already on the bubble, right? You got to go 4-0 and you can still miss if you depending on when you got your 2 losses. Like that's just what I see. And this deck has a lot of challenge. Like I don't know if you can figure out how to break the mirror and win on the draw in the mirror. Purple Steel is probably the easy best choice. I haven't found it yet. The mirror on the draw is very bad. It's very painful. And so figuring out, how to unlock that, it would be a key part of any testing I was doing if Purple Steel was what I was registering.
And there you have it. The thoughts on 8 decks that I think will be among the highest of considerations at DLC Richmond, coming to you from 3 very experienced veteran players, people I respect an awful lot. Gentlemen, we've been going over an hour. Great content, though. A lot of people... I always try and release one of these just for a DLC, and a lot of people say it's perfect for a plane journey or whatever. So hopefully you guys at home have enjoyed the breakdown right before DLC. The final thing I'd like to ask you all to do as a little round off, and we'll go Diego, Kendall, Dave. I'd like you to tell me your prediction for what will win DLC Richmond, and then please just give us any plugs, any thank yous, any shout outs. Diego, I know you've got a wonderful guide about dogs, so I'd love you to do a little summary of what people could expect from that. We will link it down below for anyone that wants to get your thoughts. But yeah, what's going to win, and then any shout outs.
Yeah, well, I'm a little biased here, and I think I have to say dogs will win Richmond. And just to shout out, shout out to my team Slab Sharks. Shout out to I have a podcast with the team. It's called Sharks After Dark. It's something new that we've put together. And check us out on YouTube. And also, check out my guide if you're looking to learn more about dogs. Like what was said here is, it might look like it's something easy to pilot, it's just an aggro deck, but no, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different lines involved, and even if you try it yourself, you might end up losing, and you realize that you're not playing it to the best of your ability. And what my guide has to offer is, like, I show you how there's different ways to play the deck, different ways for different matchups, and I have also gameplay footage for those matchups. So if you're a visual learner, it's something nice to look at, and I have a lot of write-ups about going on the play, on the draw, and just, there's a lot in that guide, so check it out if you're interested in learning more about dogs.
That's super cool. Yeah, if I was going to buy a guide, like having actual gameplay involved in that would be a big appeal to me. So that's awesome. That will all be linked down below. And Diego, thanks for coming on the channel for the first time. It's great to finally have you on. Kendall, what is going to win DLC Richmond, and what's going on in your world? Any shout-outs, any thank yous, any plugs? The floor is yours.
Yeah, as said in the video, I think Purple Steel is going to be the most played deck, and I might even guess that something like 4 of them would make the top 8, but I will agree with Diego. I think that dogs will probably win the tournament, and it might even be Diego because I don't think he's missed a top 8 at any DLC he's played in. So it's probably better than it's ever been. He's doing really well on it, so it'll probably be dogs. And as far as shout outs go, yeah, shout out to my team, World Class Cards. And yeah, shout out to everybody's Matified guides. Diego's Dogs Guide, DKP's Blurple Guide. Anyone else that has a guide out right now? Yeah,
shout out
look forward. Yeah, shout out Metafy. And then I look forward to seeing everybody in Richmond.
Yes,
so
mate.
It should be a fun time.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Maybe we'll play some Cookie Run, Kendall. I hear you're a fan as well. Looking forward to seeing you, buddy. And finally, Captain, my captain, AttackForTwo, Dave Solberg. What is going to win DLC Richmond? And yeah, any shout-outs, plugs, thank yous? Let's hear it.
I would have also picked dogs, but to be contrarian, I guess I'll go with Blurple as my...
I like that. But they would have all picked dogs as their authentic choice. But yeah. He's going to go with... to be different, he's going to go Blurple, which is reasonable.
It's just the most consistent blue deck. And they all miss ramp the same percentage, but at least Blurple's got a plan B when they do, putting a Cheshire Cat into play on turn 3 with the defensive 1-drops that, is available to that deck. It's quite strong. It's consistent, powerful. As for shout outs, I'll shout out the SLTC. It's the testing group that, that I'm a part of. And there we go. And Baker's in part of and level 2. It's a fun group. Excited to see them all there. Special shout outs to Boomy and Justin and Steven. He goes by Bad Vegas online. They're the guys that I usually room with for these type of events, and they're the ones that I work with. So shout out to them.
And that is it. A humongous thank you to Dave, Kendall, and Diego for their time. Super long episode, but hopefully you all enjoyed this overview of the meta before DLC Richmond. Which deck do you think is going to be taking down the event? I'll hear about it down in the comments below. By the time you see this, I am probably in the air on my way to America. As always, I'm so excited for the event. If you see me and you want to say hello, please do so. I would be honoured and delighted. And I am still continuing my quest to obtain as many copies of the most diabolical scheme signed by the Lorcana community. If I haven't already had one from you and you're going to be in Richmond, I would happily accept an offering of this. But that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.